Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County for Wednesday, November 14th, 2018. I am the Nighthawk, along with our studio director, Zach, and on the panel this week, no redhead next to me. I guess he decided to partake in the exciting basketball match starting here in about a half an hour. Northern Vermont University, a.k.a. Linden State.
Where, of course, Nick logged 1 year of his college career.
And David Handy, Super Dave, at this point is an MIA.
I guess he is. I realize he goes off on some car journeys. I don't remember anything tonight, but
well,
maybe we'll see him.
You know, these guys
Dave,
have
if
to
you're
remember,
out there, come on down.
Contract negotiations are ongoing right now. And instances like this will be remembered.
Yeah.
And thank God he showed up on the end of the table, my good friend, the Duke. And speaking of the basketball game, the Vermont basketball game, I thought wrong. I thought this Linden State game was an exhibition game, but in fact it is a regular game.
So this counts as a...
I'll tell you what.
How does this count?
I've seen a lot of weird things in my life, but this has to be one of the weirdest. Of course, we played number 2 ranked Kansas Monday night.
Yeah.
They were ranked number 1 last week, but the Duke
Dukies
freshmen had other ideas.
Yeah.
So
pretty
Duke's
good game
number
against
1,
Kentucky.
and Kansas went down to 2. So they're in Lawrence, Kansas, and Vermont plays great for 16 minutes. And just fell
down
apart.
by 4. The half was times 40-36 at the
and
half.
The obvious thing there, a child of 3 could have told you what was wrong. We had no big men.
Yeah.
We couldn't get rebounds. Yeah. You know, all our shots were basically one and done. But, you know, again, I don't know what it does for Kansas as a unit, but it's certainly great for the Cats to play that type of talent because they'll never see it again. But what's so queer about this whole thing is we play Kansas Monday. We have Linden State tonight.
And then what, Louisville?
Nothing against Linden, but me, you, Dave, and Red, and one other guy might give Linden a good challenge.
Right.
Then, was that Friday night?
I guess Friday at Louisville.
We're playing Louisville.
ACC.
Okay, so we got Linden in between Kansas and Louisville?
Louisville doesn't sound like one of their typically great teams, but it's Louisville. It's ACC, obviously. Very good team.
So, educate me here.
That's weird.
Patino was fired this spring, right?
Yeah, he's gone.
Due to major indiscretions, including prostitutes.
This was recruits coming in. Some of the recruits' fathers and stuff were being given some
favors by some young ladies. Yeah.
Of course, the coach Patino, of course, knew nothing about this.
Exactly.
I mean, why would you not have a handle? I mean, you know, these big basketball rosters of 15 kids. Hard to keep track of 15 kids.
Exactly.
Don't even get me.
Yeah.
I'd probably spend more time than I needed to on Rick Pitino on this show. But yeah, he'd be going. Actually, Louisville and their football coach, talk about a scumbag. Bobby Petrino.
He's the one that had an affair on his wife.
Right. He was. His lady friend was on his motorcycle there cruising around. But of course, Louisville, no problem for Louisville to hire him. I guess he just wasn't winning enough. But talk about absolute scumbag.
Yeah. What happened? He was on a motorcycle with his girlfriend, and they got in an accident.
I guess they did get in an accident.
And that's how word got out.
I guess
his wife found out that he had a lady on the side, and then he went to another college or two to coach.
That was before. I think he might have been in Arkansas then, maybe. He was someplace else, but Louisville, you know, hey, no problem. Hey, this guy wins football games. That's all we care about.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So,
amazing.
Now, I don't think the Louisville game's on television.
Wouldn't think so. Of course, the Vermont-Kansas game, ESPN2 picked it up. Certainly the announcers had very good words for Anthony Lamb in particular, had a good game. Yeah,
John Becker recruits really well. It's just a really solid program.
Anthony Lamb, does he have a shred of a chance?
No.
Maybe Europe possibly or something, or he wouldn't even.
Europe, sure.
But pros.
Well, look at Trey Bell-Haynes.
Yeah, is he still? He's over in Europe somewhere.
He's over in Europe. Yeah, I mean, again,
which is probably a pretty good last for a while.
Is exactly where they should be in the America East. As we talked about, there's probably 33 basketball conferences, and generally the America East is 26th, 27th.
Yeah.
As far as power rankings are concerned, where the ACC, your conference is generally 1 or 2 every year.
Yeah.
So,
but of course, I don't think you listen to the show. Do you ever listen to the show that our buddy Nick's been interning the game? It's a very good late afternoon sports show. But one of the guys, Arnie, who I've never met any of these guys. It's a good show. But Arnie just keeps harping. I mentioned this to Nick on the phone when he called me up a few hours ago and said he was going to the game. I said, hey, have a good time. Arnie keeps harping on saying, hey, UVM's got to get into a better conference. Come on. They got to do better than this. I'm so tired of him. What are they supposed to do? He says, we want to see better teams come to Burlington. Right, jump into a bigger, jump into the ACC. I'm sure Duke will be happy to come to Burlington, right?
Once that brand new spanking brand new arena is built.
But we're not even talking a bigger capacity, though.
Probably not. I mean, the current capacity is a few over 3,000.
So who's going to come? I mean, any big-time conference? What school is going to go to a place with...
Well, part of the problem is you get the inner city kid coming into the Green Mountains. Like right now, it's 14 degrees out right now. Snow coming tomorrow night. And let's face it, Burlington's a very good, I was going to say great, but it is a very good small city.
Sure.
But
That's very good.
I don't see a lot of hype for 18-year-olds coming up here.
But he keeps talking about UVM's got to kick it up and stuff. I'm going, how would they possibly do that? He keeps talking the Big East. Big East is going to want UVM. These schools are going to want to play a game a year or so in Burlington.
Yeah.
I'm just so tired of him hammering on this.
Yeah. And again, even with the new arena, as you mentioned, its capacity, and I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be, but just say they raised
much more, right?
Right. Maybe 500.
So what is it now? Just over 3?
Just over 3. And again, that's sitting like this with your big winter coat on your lap and stuff like that. And we complained about sitting at Gutterson all the time, but it's even worse at the Patrick Gym. I mean, that is a glorified high school gymnasium if I've ever seen one.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of UVM, we might as well conclude. The hockey team is just in the throes of another bad season. They're 3-5 overall, 1-4 in the America East. And I didn't check the standings of America East, but I'm going to safely assume they're probably in dead last there. And they have Northeastern invading the gut Friday night. But, so
2 games, Friday and Saturday?
As young Nick would like to say, it's a head scratcher how Kevin Sneddon was able to pull off a 3-year extension.
He just got a 3-year extension
on his contract last season, and there was not one person that they were just all blown away. And I realized Gutterson is not a magnet to recruit. But I talked to somebody last week, and don't remember who, and he made the point, which I've noticed. In fact, this week I saw some Boston College highlights, and hardly anybody goes. I mean, there's so many empty seats.
Yeah, I pay a little attention to that.
And
the
pat answer is,
it's Boston.
You're in Boston. You got about
you got hundreds of thousands of other college kids.
Things to do. Where as bad as the UVM hockey program is, it's still the only game in town. People do show up. If people are interested in education, UVM is still a very good academic school. So, but they're putting all their chips in the middle of the table, hoping that a new refurbed hockey arena will interest better recruits to come up here.
Well, what do you think? I mean, it seems...
I think that once you put individual seats in there, it's going to make a big
But for a recruit, I mean, the place is maybe not packed these days, but what's...
Right. The also big factor here is the new locker rooms, the new weight rooms, the new video rooms, the new everything. And the Patrick Gym will be, we would call it a fancy gym to work out, but it's a Health and Wellness Center, and they're putting millions of dollars into Patrick Gym to make that a 21st century. So it's going to be a nice concentrated athletic area.
Yeah, maybe that'll help.
And of course, right next to the Gutterson Fieldhouse, just a few years ago, they put a new soccer field there, field hockey, with artificial surface. So, they are doing a pretty nice job of, getting up to date on things. We're sport guys, and we don't think that much about the price tag, but there are people out there that could care less about sports. And right now, the price tag for the new basketball arena and refurb at Gutterson, et cetera, is $95 million.
$95 million?
Well, you tell me, what construction project ever finished A, on time, and B, on the set price? 95
probably not a lot.
Will probably end up around $112 million.
So recalling the big dig in Boston went over just a few dollars over budget. I'm kidding, as in a few $billion over budget. That was like about 15 bill or so.
Boy, did they ever write a book about that? That is one of the biggest scandals ever.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any book, but yeah.
And let me ask you too, and I was hoping David was going to be here, and I actually didn't put in my notes, but you saw in the news, I think it was last night, that Amazon decided where they were going to put their new...
Yeah, no, that had been out for a while. The speculation had been New York and Northern Virginia.
Right, and that's where they're going to park.
There's their second headquarters that they're going to split up.
But the real news is they got $2.7 trillion in tax breaks and subsidies.
$2.7
trillion.
Sure?
Yeah.
That sounds unbelievable, Hawk.
Well, that was the news last night. Yeah, trillion. 2.7 billion isn't a lot of money.
Wait, trillion, that just doesn't sound, that sounds crazy.
Well, you're talking mammoth facilities, you're talking employees of 25 to 30,000.
Sounds so.
Check your newspapers.
Yeah, Boston, of course, was one of the early, and it looked like it had a shot for it. Of course, you have some folks saying, hey, these folks should be happy they're not getting it. I mean, there's some, they have their critics. Some folks saying Seattle, which is their headquarters, that just prices out there have been kicked so high by all the, Amazon people making a ton of money and stuff. There's certainly critics to that. There's certainly some people, knowledgeable people saying, hey, be lucky you didn't get those guys. Yeah. On the surface, it sounds like, wow, what's not to like?
And that just reminds me, another story I saw last night. Calgary had a vote this past week for the 2026, 2028 Winter Olympics, whatever. You can remember they had it back in 1988. Hockey was played at the
negative vote?
You're absolutely right.
Really?
So the
Olympics have just like Boston. I'm so happy. Boston, of course, is making noise about the 2020 Summer Olympics. Folks like Dan Shaughnessy and I think Howie Carr, two folks who hardly see eye to eye probably on anything political, both said insane. I had the same thought. They were talking about building a temporary 70,000 seat stadium or something, and then dismantling it.
In Boston?
For the Olympics, if they were going to get the Olympics. This just sounded insane. I mean, Boston, like Montreal, Boston's main issue, just traffic congestion, is really tough. That's just the one issue that Montreal gets hung with. Montreal's just got all kinds of stuff going on.
Well, I was in Montreal a week or two ago.
Yeah, of course, you're there, And I got to go to the airport in a while, a trip I'm dreading.
Yeah.
I hate dealing with that place.
The trip right now, this time of the year, is not bad. Of course, the new Champlain Bridge, I guess that's
they
what
put that up. I guess they were supposed to be finished by December next month. It's officially put off until next summer now.
Yeah, they still have a lot of work. But, and I remember going down to Boston with you. It's like, oh, dude, boy, this was really fast, how quick we got to Boston. Well, once we got the outskirts, it took us longer to get from the outskirts of Boston to Fenway Park than it did from getting from St. Albans down to
Seemed like it anyway.
Methinks we have a phone call.
Yeah, we'll see.
So
Mr. Zach's checking it out here.
So
we got a call.
Here we go. Let's do it. Thanks for calling. We're lonely guys here tonight on the panel. Welcome to the best damn sports show in Franklin County.
Jeez, it looks like two bookends over there.
I know it.
Thanks for remembering us, Mr. Bobby.
I'll always do
Caller, quick
best
question.
damn sports show on TV.
Yeah, you did not go to Kentucky, I take it.
No, unfortunately, my son, about 10 days before, kind of started complaining about his back. And it turns out he's got a herniated disc.
Wow.
And he's been wiped right out for
Wow.
3 weeks. And, I mean, this kid is just as solid as a rock, you know, hard worker, great shape. And, I mean, he would have been the last one I would have guessed with a herniated disc. I spoke to him a bit tonight, and it just messes you up both physically and mentally, you know, with that constant pain. As you know, I went through a bit of that myself, 2 weeks of it last December, and it just, like I say again, mentally and physically, it just wipes you right out. So
That's too bad.
that kind of stopped our trip to Kentucky this year, you know.
Now, have you done any
Certainly-
deer hunting at this point yourself?
Yes.
Have you gotten one?
I've got 2 during bow season, and I've been hunting. I hunted 4 days here during rifle season. Seen a few, but nothing that I wanted yet.
Can
But,
you-
Hey,
no,
good for you.
I've been enjoying Vermont hunting.
Can you approximate how many deer you have taken in your lifetime?
If I told you that, Nighthawk, I'd probably have a protest in front of the house tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got to think we're talking
Over
three figures easily. Right?
Oh, I would say over
Well-
200.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
No,
Hey,
it's a field. I don't really count them there. I like eating them, low fat, high protein.
Yeah, great meat.
Good for you.
hey, good for you.
But
Now, let me ask you, at your old age, do you get the same thrill today as you did, say, 40 years ago?
Good question.
that much or more. I
Really?
really do. I really enjoy it. Yeah, you know, if that thrill goes away, you know, I go away. I don't do it any longer, you know.
Yeah.
But
So-
Hey, good. Sounds like, Bobby, it sounds like the state's deer population as opposed to its moose population, which is hurting. Deer population sounds like it's in pretty good shape still?
I think so. You know, there's a lot of deer out there and a lot of good Vermont hunters. You know, in Vermont, there's probably not quite the herd as other states, but I've hunted a lot of different states, and I do dare to say Vermont has the best deer hunters. You work harder for your deer here in most other states, so
Oh, yeah.
I do tip my hat to the Vermont deer hunters. They're a great bunch of guys and gals, and
Duke,
you've
I
got
was,
older ones, and you've got a lot of young, promising hunters coming up through the
good.
system.
Do you-
So
do you
know, I
guys
tip my cap to each of them. All
Yeah,
of them.
that's great.
do you guys know what the deer population in the state?
I did see a figure. Bobby would know more than me. Didn't I see about 150,000, Bobby? Does
Yeah,
that
I
sound
think
about right?
it's usually around 120, 130.
Yeah,
something like
Maybe
that.
they estimate it
They've
more.
got it this year at 160.
Oh, really?
And that floored me. I would have guessed 40,000. And they said part of the reason, too, is like every other young person, young people don't hunt
Yeah, there's
anymore
certainly
like
not
they
as many
don't
hunters.
because there's no instant gratification, especially when it comes to deer hunting. And it's an old man sport right now, and the population is actually growing.
Yeah, to some extent, I guess. Boy, moose.
You see a lot of young hunters now, and what I really like, there's a lot of youngsters, young women, mid-aged women, and older women enjoying the sport. And
I'm not
you know,
touching
I
that.
do really like that mix. And they have the youth hunting, which is like 1 week before the start of our hunting.
Right.
And I was up in Bakersfield that week and that Saturday at my son's for a bit, and I went to the general store up there for a cup of coffee and a breakfast sandwich, and they were weighing in 2 or 3 deer that the youngsters have shot, and to see the expression on their faces and to ask them about their hunt is just priceless. These youngsters, you know, I think a lot of these will be hooked for life, hopefully, you know. So it's a special thing.
Now, caller, have you ever moose hunted?
No, I did not.
And why not?
Like Duke said, the moose population is on the rapid decline. There's this moose tick that has surfaced the last few years, not to be mistaken with a deer tick, but these moose ticks are devastating. These moose will scratch themselves raw and, get infected and die. And I do imagine there's a few other issues going on with them, but they give like maybe 10 permits out a year now to hunt them when, 10 years ago it was 1,000. But they are on a rapid decline, so, they're the Fish and Wildlife are paying special attention to that.
I saw
not just Vermont, just across, I think, the northern U.S., the moose population.
I saw a video with a moose that had moose ticks rubbing itself against the tree.
Yeah.
And like the caller said, I mean, he just rubbed himself raw.
Yeah.
What a horrible way to live.
Yeah, I've had my camp in the kingdom for about, not that I'm ever there, but for a good dozen years or so. I used to see moose almost every other time I'd go out there. I made it out only 4 or 5 times this summer. I saw 2 moose one day, so
that was it.
Just don't see nearly as many moose as I used to in the far reaches of the kingdom, moose country.
I'd like to kind of announce the loss of a great community person, Robert Smith, a.k.a. Uncle Bob.
Great guy.
Passed away a few days ago.
Yeah.
Everybody that has been around a little bit of town, they can remember him riding his bicycle around.
That's a good point.
He was kind of everywhere. He was a great Red Sox fan, a great New York Giant fan, and he'll definitely be well missed in this community. I mean, you go way back with him. Nighthawk, when we were kids, he going down to his house, he was always laughing and joking with us kids, and he was a great father, a great uncle, and just a great person.
Of course, he was the head. He was the manager of the Worthmore Grain Company.
He was. Of course, the famous story when they couldn't knock that thing down.
Right, where the police station is where the Worthmore is, and I remember going there as a kid with a BB gun shooting pigeons.
Oh, is that right?
He, as you knew him, what was he, a city
He was
clerk?
assistant city manager under Bill Chaffee. He was the number 2 guy, but
so you had a lot of
great guy.
Dealings with him as
tremendous
a professional.
Guy. Did a great job for the city, but you guys, again, he's your uncle, but a top-notch guy.
He lived till 90, but unfortunately, he had a stroke about 20 years ago or so.
Wow.
And he was somewhat incapacitated for the past generation here.
And, salute to my Aunt Kathleen for taking care of him and helping out with him all that time.
Yeah.
Because he's a mountain of a man, a big strong man. And Aunt Kathleen did one heck of a job with him. And, she as well as the saying. They're 2 great people.
Yeah.
And he played way back. Remember softball way back when they played there? I almost think he played for Hoods, wasn't it?
I think
Remember George Walgrove used to play, and a bunch of them from Hoods Creamery. They had their softball team was always at Holton Park.
Yep.
I mean, this is way back.
Well, we're talking a half a century ago, but he was a pitcher.
Oh, is that right?
And so
I don't think
That's
when
the Hoods was at
played.
full swing, and they had good softball teams. Remember the Creamery right up on Main Street across from the cemetery by
South Main Street.
Where community colleges is
I
that
can
whole
vaguely
in the bank.
I vaguely remember that.
Because my former father-in-law was the manager.
Oh, is that right? At Hoods?
He was the top dog there before they shut Hoods down. But it's funny. You think a lot of stuff just happened a few years ago, but you get old like this, and it's like, wow, half century.
No, nice.
Well,
nice
you're right.
comments.
Everything seems like to me. We'll talk at work with the guys. Like we'll talk sports, and we'll say, "Oh, that was probably 5-6 years ago," and usually you double it.
Yeah.
It was always told when you're young. As you get older, time goes by that much faster, and geez, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. So now, caller, I know you're a Rams fan, and I have officially signed my adoption papers. They're my newly adopted team. I saw them against Seattle. There has not been one Ram game that has not been exciting from the opening kickoff right to the end. They are such a fun team, and of course, ESPN is going absolutely bananas. They're advertising, talking about this game about every 30 seconds, Rams and Chiefs. And thank you.
Too bad Mexico City.
They're at the Coliseum in L.A. That was
I guess Mexico there, they had a concert there, and they had above average precipitation, and there was other sporting activities that went on, and I guess a lot of the players let their concerns be known about the conditions of the field, And
that's exactly what happened. Is the NLPA got involved quickly,
right?
Where Ram and Chiefs players intimated that they were going to boycott the game. And the thing is, all these MCLs, ACLs, they're not from punishing hits. It's when they're the non-contact hits. And this turf, they showed it yesterday on ESPN. It was ungodly bad. I mean, there would have been so many injuries with that. So it really became a
I'm glad that sounds like a good decision.
Yeah, like Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp, yeah,
Cooper Kupp
injured himself on
he
a
had just a token block, and he got an ACL. When you see a guy limping with nobody around him, you automatically say,
beware.
Done for the year. We'll see you in 12 months. But
you know what I found ironic was Des Bryant holding out all year and finally hooking up with the Saints. And during practice, what was it, an MCL or ACL? He's out for the year and never got started.
Yeah, it was the last play in practice, and whatever injury he got, it was one of those 12-month injuries. So he probably will never.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Hit the field. So,
that's why I feel if you've got the talent today to play major league sports, Le'Veon Bell, and I mean, there's two sides to the story, but I mean, when you have a God-given talent, get out there and play, use it. $14 million. That's a good chunk of change. Don't, worry about this or that. Just get out there and play, make your money, have your fun. These holdouts just. There's ways of resolution to this. I don't like what's being done. I know his rights. He can do this, but I just feel it's bad for the game. It's bad for him, and his teammates. I don't feel there's nothing good that's going to come out of this. Maybe the running back now for the Steelers feels differently. He's starting to have a monster of a year back there, but. It just hurts the game, I think.
It's crazy as a running back. You have such a short life as a runner in the NFL. So he gave up $14.5 million of guaranteed franchise money. How in the world is he going to recoup that $14.5? It's not going to happen. And as the caller mentioned, James Conner took over as running back. Okay,
he's done great.
He's been incredible for the Steelers this year, and it goes to prove, you do have to have some talent, but you just could be an average runner with a great line in front of you.
So why did Bill do? What does he gain by doing that?
He wanted to save his body because they would give him the.
But what about next year? Isn't he in the same situation? Don't the Steelers still have his way?
I believe they don't.
They don't.
They don't. But again, James Conner is the poster child of, okay, you don't have to be a great runner. Give me a good line.
Yeah.
Le'Veon Bell will be a year older. I think he's going to be hard-pressed to even match that $14.5 million.
If he hooks up with somebody else, to your point, Nighthawk, what if they don't have a great offensive line?
Yep.
What if he's like your guy, your rookie there, Barkley? I watched the game, not this week, but last week, the plays, the dodging he was making from behind the line of scrimmage. his runs start at a -2 yards.
Yep. Yeah,
And, if Bell hooks up with somebody next year with 2-3 year contract, and he's with this kind of line, it's not going to fare too well for him or his health.
Yeah, top of my head, a good landing spot for him, but it's an incredibly horrible program. The Oakland Raiders, they have an injured Marshawn Lynch, who's about 82 years old, and Doug Martin, another grizzled veteran. But with Bell want to go play for Oakland, who looks like will end up with the first pick of the draft this year. So now, I mean, Pittsburgh's a great football town. It's a great team.
Yeah.
He should have just signed.
What a nice place to play. It's fantastic.
Pittsburgh's a great city. I've been there.
You've been there for baseball. Yeah, Bell does become a free
They always
agent.
have contending teams.
Yep. I mean, Big Ben's
That just seems just so
dumb.
And again, staying on this big money issue, we hit on it briefly last week. My apologies to Red. He was right on Cucho, the pitcher for Houston. I thought Houston was re-signing him, but he turned down his offer, and I think, what was that, $17.5 million?
Yeah, 17.9, and he didn't have that great of a season this year.
Well, he's been on the decline the last 2 years. Kimbrough refused, and we hit on it briefly last week, but, if you're a superstar, I can see, but if you're on the decline whatsoever, it's geez, maybe I should grab this sure money.
Yeah.
Kimbrough, I mean, I would have been all over that money. And even Cucho, a lot of his value is being on a fantastic team,
Yep.
These guys are hitting all the time. He's always working with a lead. It's a lot easier to pitch ahead 3-0 than behind 3-0. So I don't know if they get misinformed from their agents or what, but I would just count, if you want to sign me to that every year, I'll take that every year. It's a pretty good living.
One thing that's changed in free agency is back in the day, 90% of the free agents were signed by Thanksgiving. Now it just stretches out right till like February 1st. There's no rush to sign contracts anymore. And J.D. Martinez, I read an article a few days ago about it's more than likely he will be leaving the Red Sox after next year.
Or unless they
right. Now, if I were the
don't up
Red
the
Sox,
ante.
they had signed him to a 5-year, $110 million contract, which is averaged out to $22 million.
Yeah.
I would just write him a check, pull out the check, and just give him a check for $25 million.
This was what he was saying? Or was it just speculation?
It was speculation that he's underpaid, which he is, for $22 million. And like you said, his numbers.
Right, but he waited. Let's turn the clock back. We were the only people really after him, the only team after him. And again, like I said last week, the Red Sox, their lineup, when you're inserted into their lineup, you are automatically going to be a better hitter.
Yeah.
You see better pitches to hit. You're looking at strikes. They don't get a lot of walks on that team because the next batter will make you pay for it. And it's happened a few times this year where they would walk one person to get to the next person, and that next person coming to the plate just puts it out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
And, as far as Martinez said, by today's values, he's probably worth more, but you wait another year or so, he's going to be limited to the American League only. He's going to be 33 years old. The Yankees probably will not sign him.
No.
The Angels probably will not sign him. Yep. So it's, for another $5 or $6 million more, maybe, where are you going to end up? And are you going to be on a team like the Red Sox? Will your numbers ever be able to come close to repeating themselves?
Yeah.
And, I guess people like us that make a moderate living, it's hard for us to watch people walk away from millions,
Yeah, and you make the good point. He's a poor defender, and he will be a DH sooner than later. But again, if I were the Red Sox, I would just cut him a check for $25 million. That's 5 more per year. So that would make it an average
No,
of
it's just
20.
3 more.
20
I
thought he was
5 years, 110, 22 million
right.
or so.
But if you give him 25, that will average out from this past season to a $27 million player.
Bet he's looking for a lot more than that.
Yeah, and like Bryce Harper.
Yeah, but again, my concerns is more with Mookie Betts and Bogarts than Martinez.
Yeah, I hear you.
They said Bogarts will probably be testing the free agent market.
Next year,
I'd
right?
rather wrap him up right now.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I didn't realize he had 103 RBIs last
Yeah.
year. How many shortstops?
I remember when he was closing in on 100. Yeah, he had a.
But the caller mentioned, and it's probably the most important point with the Red Sox, it's the word protection. They always talk about being protected.
Yeah.
You got somebody behind you to protect you. I don't care where you're inserted in the Red Sox lineup. Okay, you've got protection. Yeah. And he is right. Just by the nature of going on the Red Sox, you're that much better of a ball player. And again, he's right. The Red Sox have much bigger fish to fry. And I know it sounds weird talking about a guy that's got 130 RBIs, but Bogarts, you got to resign, and Mookie Betts is undeniably, the best player in baseball this year.
JBJ, you'd probably like to keep him around. Maybe not, to the extent of the other folks, but especially second half. JBJ had a pretty good year.
The Red Sox.
He was awesome, and with his glove, he was awesome all year long. And again, I give kudos to Cora. He stuck in with him better than I probably would have. Cora. I said it 2 weeks ago. He is just a great man, He is very dedicated to his players, and as we've all seen this year, his players have responded very well. So I like Bradley Jr. He, you think of the Red Sox, and he's definitely part of the team. Duke, you're right. That second half, he went on kind of a torrid run there, and wasn't he MVP for the series against the Astros?
I think it was the ALCS.
ALC against the Yankees.
Oh, Yankees!
Right, the three big home runs. His 3 hits for all big homers.
Yeah, Cora did sign an extension today.
No, is that right?
An additional 1 year to his contract. So, okay, caller.
Yeah, well deserved. Okay, we'll let you guys go, and have a great evening.
Hey, thanks for calling. Thank you. See ya.
528-5315, and I'm going to assume David's not going to be here because
that looks like a pretty good assumption. I just wonder if we missed a road trip. I know he was going to Boston.
But I just wanted to let him know that you are part of 2018 golf trivia. Who's the last person to hit a ball at the Champlain Country Club in 2018? I sit with him. Duke and I went out Friday. Unfortunately, I mistakenly told David Thursday was the last day. I saw him and his buddies out there playing, so at least they got the last day. So Duke and I went out and played. My buddy Joe pulled a muscle in his back doing his exercises at 6:37 in the morning. He knew his season was done. Another younger guy was playing. He had too much to do. And I had called Duke and said, Duke, we're golfing tomorrow at 1:15. We want to get our last 9 in. So I said, I'm doomed here. The Duke better show up. So I called him. I'm dressed, ready to go.
You played some. I got off to a good start in Fade. He played good golf that day.
So we golf. I was shooting good at the second last hole. I lifted my head, sculled the ball. But anyway, it was just nice to be out there in nice 38-degree weather.
Played the back 9, of course.
So we get up on the green on the last hole, either in 2 or 3, and I missed a long putt. I only had a short one, so I just tapped it in, leaving you the honors to say I'm the last guy to hit for the year.
Had I been thinking of that, you would have been, of course, it's ironic because, of course, I played so little, so I'm sorry I didn't let you do that. I don't think I was thinking about it.
But I was talking to Joe a couple nights ago. It's just so funny how well you can play in November.
Yeah.
38-degree weather versus like 88-degree weather.
As you say, Hawk, you'd take 38-degree weather in a second. Right?
Playing 38 versus 88. Do we have another call?
I haven't seen Zach signal us. Do we have another call?
Good evening. You are on the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County.
Hey, how you doing?
Yes, good evening.
Hi, Leonard J. Parent.
I remember you.
I want you to know that, technically speaking, I made some money Monday night because I had an epiphany. We had a rested football team. We had a team with no injuries.
Yep.
We had a quarterback playing only in his second game who was undrafted. He had a big game against Oakland, which meant nothing to me because Oakland doesn't even play.
Right.
They don't even want to win a game.
Right.
So I'm surprised it took so long to win it, quite frankly. I thought if we wouldn't have slipped and slided as much as we did with our cleats, we'd have been a little further ahead of the game. We wouldn't have gone. It wouldn't have taken that long. So did very well, and I passed that along to some of my friends who really cashed in. I told them that this was almost a sure win, and I didn't think it would take that long. But I don't. It all came together for me. The stars. I mean, this was a game they should have won, and they won. And what a difference one offensive lineman can make.
Well, Leonard, this Jamon Brown we got from the Rams. And I told the story last week. He was suspended for the first 2 games. I don't know why. And they put another.
I think it was Peds.
You think it was Peds? Okay.
I think so.
So they put another guy in, and he's performed well. And the Rams said, "Oh, okay, we're good." While the Rams had to make a roster move, and Brown was sitting on the bench. But the thing is Brown's contract is up at the end of the year, and that's why the Rams said that's a good guy to cut. Well, the Giants had at that point 2 weeks ago had the worst record in football. They had the first waiver pick. Giants automatically took him, and I read there were a number of teams that put a waiver claim in. So this guy with very little practice didn't play a great game, but played much better.
Oh well, he was responsible for 1 touchdown. I mean, he came around and made a nice little block.
But
that allowed 1 touchdown.
Yeah, he gave up a sack. He played pretty well, and hopefully he's going to be happy, Leonard, and re-sign with the Giants because that will save us a very high draft pick. Now, you look at the Giants' line. Soldier, as we all know, hasn't lived up to his contract. He can play better. We both think Willie Hernandez will be a real bulldog at the left guard. Spencer Pulley is now playing center. He started all 16 games for the Chargers last year, but they signed one of the Pouncey boys, I think it was Maurice Pouncey, to play center. Giants picked him up on waivers. He's playing okay, as we mentioned, Brown, and we've got to get a right tackle. Now, what could happen, Leonard, is if we draft the left tackle in the first round, we could take Solder and move him over to right tackle and put the first-round pick at left.
Well, Soder, has not lived up to expectations, but his move is to take the end that he's playing against, to take him wide. Mm-hmm. And Brady would always step up in the pocket, but our guards aren't good enough. They collapse, so there's no pocket to step up in. So Soder, he hasn't been that good, but he hasn't been that bad. He's done what Nate Soder does. Yeah. He takes the big ends and he loops them. They have to loop around him to the outside, allowing the quarterback to step up because Eli he couldn't step up because the guards weren't doing their job.
Exactly.
But with this new right guard, and he's the biggest guy now on the line.
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
And if he continues to play, I think, at the level that he did just the other night, with only about 4 days of practice, he's somebody they will consider signing.
Oh, absolutely. And that was the point I made, very little practice. And the point you made, too, Leonard, this late in the season, I have never seen this. They have no injuries on this team. If you would have told me before the season, this late in the year, that the team has nobody on the injury list, then I would tell you then clearly we're going to be in first place. Because last year we had a plethora of injuries. And this year, this is unreal. And we're still having a bad season.
Well, we're having a bad season, but you need a mobile quarterback today. That's the new dynamic, and that's the bottom line, especially with this line. But if they'd have had a mobile quarterback, they easily would have been in the hunt here. Yeah. They easily would have been 500.
Yeah, and of course
we've lost a lot of games by less than 7 points.
That's what I was just going to say. I think we lost 5 games of 7 points or less. Now, Leonard, the thing too is the Giants played Tampa this week.
Right.
And
Pierre Paul's running his mouth already.
Yep, and we're favored by 1.5. I assume we're going to win this game. It's going to move us lower on the draft board, and that's okay. But my point being is the only quarterback considered in the top 5 is this kid, Justin Herbert. Herbert. I thought it was Hebert, but Herbert.
Herbert.
Yeah, he's 6'6", 235.
Well, I've seen him play. I've watched him play.
Right.
Oregon. 3 games I've watched.
Yeah, and he has said he may not want to come out, even though he could be the first pick. It looks like Oakland will get the first pick, and they want him in the worst way. And the problem with this kid is he grew up 4 blocks away from the football stadium at Oregon. He is all Oregon. He's a medical major. I don't know if he's going to be a doctor or whatever, but apparently this guy is a genius, and he's thinking 20 years down the road. He just loves his college life, and he may just forfeit going to the NFL for another year in Oregon.
Yeah, it depends. I don't know who'd want to go to Oakland, quite frankly.
Well, Leonard, I do have a question for you because I agree with you. I think John Gruden wants to lose every game and rebuild this right from ground floor.
Has no desire to win.
I think the Raiders want this Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr would be on the trading block. Now, I, as a Giant fan, would have no problem trading my second-round pick to get Derek Carr. Mm-hmm. And there is
I think there, and the kid we got from Cleveland there, Coleman, he showed why he was the number 1 pick. He's got a lot of talent. Actually.
Leonard, in 2015, he was the 15th overall pick, but the first wide receiver chosen. He looked like a bullet out of a gun coming out of the end zone the other night.
Speed.
If this kid can get his head on straight, this kid will be a big-time weapon. Mm-hmm. So there are some bright lights starting to shine for the Giants.
You were talking golf there a little bit, and there's a lot of new rules coming down. Just to discuss a few of them, and you know them, obviously.
Well, I don't. I do want to ask you one. Is it true?
You can putt with the pin in.
Right.
That's a big one.
Now, why is it?
DeChambeau, the scholar that he is, he's already said that he'll leave the pin in to putt if it's made of metal. If it's made of fiberglass, he will not.
Really?
It's core of restitution or something like that. And he says he already knows which tournaments he's going to play in next year and which pins he'll leave in. Augusta, he will not leave in because they're made of fiberglass.
Huh.
He says metal pins he'll leave in.
Really?
You can move. You can ground your club in a hazard, not a sand trap, but in a red staked hazard. You can, if you do it inadvertently, you happen to ground your club. It's not a penalty.
Okay.
And you've got 3 minutes to look for your ball instead of 5. You can move loose impediments in the trap. In other words, you can move rocks in the sand trap, things like that. And out of bounds, it's no longer stroke and distance. It's just stroke. You don't have to re-hit. It's kind of like a hazard.
So some of this is just to try to speed things up a bit, I assume?
Yeah. But the pros are also eligible to do this, and it'll be interesting to see how many elect to putt with the pins in.
That's right.
I think it gives you, more target. There's something about it. It's linear. I mean, the hole with a pin in it, all of a sudden becomes vertical. It's more target than just a hole in the ground. Yeah. And that's psychological, I know.
Although typically,
when I play alone, which I don't do much anymore, I always play with the pin in. I'm trying to speed things up. Yeah. And I kind of like it, quite frankly.
And of course, the big change, the PGA moves up to May next year. We've got the PGA and the TPC back to March.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I found that to be quite interesting. Of course, I got to rah-rah the Braves a minute, Manager of the Year, Rookie of the Year, 3 Gold Glovers, and feeling very good about spring training. We'll make a few moves, and I'll leave with this, a more somber note, obviously. Bob Smith passed away, and he was a friend of mine. We've known each other for a long time. He was a relative of yours, right?
He was my uncle.
Uncle Bob.
My mother's brother.
Right, and nice guy. And I got to tell the story. You've heard it, but if there's one or two people listening that haven't, it's so classic. We used to go down to watch the Giants play on a regular basis, and Bob and I together, just the two of us, flew down to LaGuardia. As most of us would always go to Newark and take a cab, but we went to LaGuardia. I rented an Avis car, and we drove down to the Meadowlands, and it was a flight same night coming back to Burlington, and we got to LaGuardia. Traffic was tough. We were running late. It was an Avis sports car. I couldn't return it. I drove around in circles. I just couldn't find a place to return it, and I didn't know the airport. And so I told Bob. I gave him the boarding passes as time was really running out. I said, you go up to back then you didn't have to go through security.
Yeah.
I said, go up to the gate and tell them, hey, we're coming. I mean, I'm just having some difficulty here returning the car. And I made one more loop around, couldn't find a place. And so I left it with a skycap, the car, and made the flight home safely on time. And about a month later, I get a bill from Avis for like over $2,000.
Wow.
The skycap kept it for a couple of weeks, drove it around, didn't return it. And of course, I was sort of, I'm not paying. This is crazy, even though probably I was liable in a sense. But I
would think
got one
so.
of my attorney friends to write a nasty letter on one of their letterheads to Avis and told him the situation. And he's willing to pay for what he used it for, but he's not going to pay this extra fee for nothing that he incurred himself. And they backed off and only charged me what they should have. And so that's kind of a cute story. And that was Bob and I, our trip to New York to see the Giants.
So you gave it to a Sky. I would say they certainly could have nailed you for that had they wanted to.
Well, me too. I agree. But on the attorney's letterhead, a rather, pretty taciturn letter, if you will. And obviously Avis didn't think it was worth fighting, so they just charged me what I owed them for the time, and they ate the rest.
A quick story. I'll try to do this in a minute. My first trip to California, I think late 70s, just a few years after I was here visiting a friend of mine who's the newly elected mayor of Carmel, my old friend Dave Potter from Hingham. Anyway, rental car, met a lady friend out there, brought her back from LA to Santa Rosa. Anyway, and we go to San Francisco on the way back North Park by Fisherman's Wharf against my better judgment in a parking garage. But that, I had a trunk. Did I put all my stuff in the trunk? No, back seat. Get back to the car after an hour or two, back window smashed in, all our stuff gone. I'm flying out the next day, bring it to the rental car people. Oh, you broke I said, hey, you guys have insurance. I'm bitter enough about what happened. Don't even talk to me. They let me go. Didn't charge me for the broken, smashed car.
I never heard that story.
Anyway.
So
my last offering of the night is I had a niece who goes to Pepperdine, still does, and she had the hole up in the field house and then the library for 2-3 days because it's surrounded by fire there in Malibu. And she finally was able to catch a flight and back home in Portland. And she made a nice bit of reportage on Facebook regarding her travails, and I reminded her that she'll have some stories to tell her grandkids now. And of course, it kind of runs in the family. My wife went through Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. She's
Really?
in the 20th floor of a hotel next to the Superdome, and the window blew out while she was in it.
They stayed
there 5 days before they were evacuated.
Diane
and my
Leonard?
niece, who goes to Pepperdine's father, lived through the 88 or 89 earthquake in San Francisco, and his street right in front of his front door caved in. And I remember having him on the radio live. I don't know if you recall this, each of you. You were still working at the radio then. I had him on the radio live from San Francisco, and he says, I'm getting out of here. And he moved to Portland.
Really?
Yeah.
And it turns out he met his wife when a fire alarm went off in their apartment building. That's how he
Really?
met his wife. So it's kind of comical in a way that, there have been a lot of those calamities that have beset the family, so to speak.
Leonard, I must have known that. You said Diane was in New Orleans for Katrina?
Oh, yeah. She's right in the hotel next to the Superdome.
Wow.
Window blew out, 20th floor, and she ended up in the lobby for 5 days before they evacuated her.
Wow.
It was the best hotel to be in, though, because that's where the command post turned out to be for the mayor and everybody.
Wow.
So, they had portable power in the lobby. They had food and water, and they finally, after 5 days, flew her out to San Antonio.
You were able to stay in touch with her when she was there?
Was. And the real funny part of this whole story is Diane likes to travel and go alone often, and she was going to go to Florida. And there was this hurricane, Katrina, at the time was headed right into the east coast of Florida, you may recall. And she wanted to go to Florida at that time. I said, Diane, I think there's a hurricane coming in. I said, I don't think you really want to go to, she likes to go to Fort Lauderdale.
Wow.
And I said, I don't think you want to go there. She says, well, where can I go? I said, well, you've never been to New Orleans. The weather's nice. I said, you'd like
right?
that. True story. I can't make this up.
Unreal.
She wanted to go to New Orleans. So she went to New Orleans on my, suggestion.
Wow.
And it turns out, as you all know, Katrina did a left turn at the East Coast, around the tip of Florida, up the Gulf, right into New Orleans.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Now, Leonard, before you leave, one question. Are you paying $19.99 for the Tiger-Phil match?
No.
I don't even think of that thing.
No, I have no, that doesn't, I'll read about it.
I don't think that's going to be a biggie.
I was on the computer today.
It.
This is turning into a major flop. Even avid golfers have no interest.
Well, they're not even see, if they were playing for their own money.
Exactly. Now, not only that, their combined age is 90.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I would rather see Jordan Spieth against Rory.
What's that again? I'm sorry.
I'd rather see Jordan Spieth play against Rory McIlroy than Tiger and Phil.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's not like a playoff for the U.S. Open.
No,
not exactly.
A playoff for the U.S. Open, then I'd say I would certainly probably do it.
Yeah.
Because it really means something.
Yeah.
What the hell does this mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the money's going to charity? Is that what it is? I hope so.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but again, it appears like it's going to turn into a flop.
Wow, this is like this will be like a Wednesday round before a tournament. They bet and they play. I mean, it's not their money.
And that's
their money.
Bottom line.
I think probably it'd be a pretty good match because I don't think Phil played pretty well his first tournament out here a few weeks ago, and Tiger, kind of, after a nice little run there, he kind of fell down a little bit. So I don't expect it to be a blowout because it's being played on a course where I believe you've got room to be wayward with your driver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So okay, Leonard.
Talk to you later.
Thank you,
Thanks,
my friend.
Len. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Now, some great stories here.
528-5315 to be on the show.
So meanwhile, the Pats, it's funny. 1 week, most people seem to have them obviously another Super Bowl appearance for the Pats. They have, indeed, probably their worst game maybe in years. Horrible game against Tennessee, one bad, terrible game, and then Brady's had it and stuff.
Dude, I was telling that to our buddy Joe.
And it was a horrible game.
Right, they had a bad game. But they lose a game. I have never seen in my entire life a sports team where the whole world turns against them after one. They're still 7-3. They probably will still be.
Although home field advantage is now looking pretty shaky.
Dubious.
And their Super Bowl wins usually start in Foxborough.
Yeah.
But still, one game. But it was a horrible.
Yep.
And also, God, they pull. Even people saying, how dare they pull Brady? They were just down by 3 possessions. Well, sounds like, they needed 3 touchdowns and 3 2-point conversions to, with about 7.5 minutes left. Hey, he's getting beat up. Get him out of the game.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing people say, how could they take him out? Because they have half a brain, maybe.
Yeah.
But boy, it was a stinger. I loved Deion Lewis. And again, I'm kind of bitter. Deion Lewis was great for those guys. Hey, Deion, see ya. didn't even, talk to him after last season. But did you catch his comment?
The Patriots are cheap.
Patriots are cheap, and I'm glad they got their ass kicked, baby.
But you know what? And there's a good example of the Le'Veon Bell situation.
Yeah.
Look at the Patriots. They replace running backs like you change underwear.
They do.
It's the Patriot system. And did you ever hear of James Conner before this year? Of course not. Of course not. And in Belichick we trust. It's a little tiresome. All spring and summer we heard about how bad the Patriots are. Their dynasty's over.
The rift of the disunity and stuff. Although it's interesting, 2 of their losses, both bad losses. The Detroit loss wasn't quite as bad, but it was pretty bad.
Let me ask you.
Two former coaches, Matt Patricia beats him now with Detroit, and Mike Vrabel. Talk about Pats I love. I love that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Not a high-profile guy, but so useful. I love folks. And Rob Ninkovich I'm seeing on TV these days. But that's interesting. 2 of his former coaches have beaten him pretty badly.
And Detroit has
had
3
a
and
terrible
6.
year. Titans seem like a fairly decent team.
Yeah. What was my question? Oh, Robert Gronkowski. Everybody loves him. He's a great personality. But is there a softer guy in the NFL than Gronkowski?
Yeah.
Every year he's injured.
I'm glad they did sit him out that game, though, with the bye week. Give him, you're hearing a lot. I'm hearing a lot of people say this is Gronk's gone next year.
Will be more surprised if he returns.
Well, they supposedly tried to trade him, right? Didn't they?
I did read that, yeah. But, he's not a Hall of Fame receiver just because he doesn't have the numbers. He just missed too many games. Yeah.
But he's certainly he's still capable of, even in his last game, which wasn't noteworthy, he did make one, I don't know if you saw it, one catch near the end zone. I mean, just an unreal catch that he made.
Well, let me...
So I wouldn't
proclaim him
forget about it.
As he's the Steven Strasburg of football.
Yeah.
He's great when he plays, but
he's missed a lot of time.
But, speaking tight ends, you saw this year the coming of age of the great tight end from the 49ers, George Kittle. Yeah. This kid is good out of Iowa, second-year player. He's already a top 3 tight end in all of football. But do I think the Patriots have life in them for another Super Bowl run? Absolutely.
I hope so. I'm certainly not saying they don't after one bad game, but it was a scary bad game. But I'm sorry they had the bye. I'm sorry they couldn't have had another game coming right up.
Without thinking about it.
They got the bye.
But, there are some teams in the AFC. Before the season, we were talking who are the super teams in the American Conference. New England.
Steelers are looking like a pretty decent team.
Steelers are playing. They've won 5 in a row.
Kansas City.
And the LA Chargers are 7-2 themselves. So they've actually become a better conference than the National Conference, which I would have told you 1st of September. You're nuts because
I'm used to the AFC getting beaten up for how terrible it is, and I understand that. Your conference, your Giants, that's not exactly a real impressive conference, is it?
Listen, the Redskins
isn't that as bad as the AFC East?
Yeah, the Redskins are 6-3, and they're certainly not that good of a team. Yeah. Then you have Dallas and Philadelphia, each at 4-5.
Boy, Philadelphia, again, it's the old Super Bowl winner next year.
Yeah.
Boy, they're looking looking fairly shaky for postseason now then, or?
Yeah, they're, obviously the game against Washington is a must. But, of course, you got New Orleans, who are just playing like gangbusters right now. And the Rams. Both Rams are 9-1. New Orleans are 8-1. Will Green Bay get back in the fold here? Yeah, maybe, but I'm not a big Packer fan. And another thing about football too, when the Giants took Saquon Barkley, 2nd overall pick, there are a lot of folks out there saying, "What the hell are you doing? Should have went for a quarterback." Well, it was the Giants' belief, my belief also, that there were no quarterbacks there worthy of a 2nd overall pick. Yeah. Now the crop coming out this year is as bad as I have ever remembered. Yeah. We mentioned the aforementioned Justin Herbert from Oregon. But like I've seen on some mock drafts, the Giants going for that Justin Finley from, or not
NC
Finley,
State.
Ryan Finley from NC State.
Which has a history of producing good
Now,
QBs.
Duke's,
and even the Dookie guy.
Duke's quarterback, Daniel Jones,
Dookie's coming off a couple of good wins.
is the rising star in the draft right now. Mel Kiper has put him in the first round now.
Is he
Now,
really?
I was looking at Daniel Jones. If the Giants feel inclined to go for a quarterback, Jones would be a
You'll
good.
try to forget your horrible memories of Dave Brown.
But Dave Brown supplanted Phil Simms. Dave Brown, folks won't remember this, 25 years ago?
It was a supplemental
draft,
pick or something.
but Dave Brown just looked like it was
Looked the
built out
part.
of stone.
Looked the part.
He looked the part.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure I saw him play a few
I
games.
remember
at Duke.
Simms playing and Dave Brown on the sideline. What are you doing? This guy, look at him.
Yeah.
Look at him. And he turned out to be.
But Daniel Jones, they're coming off a great win, my friends. I missed kind of a reunion of some of my freshman year friends who were down last weekend for the Duke-UNC game. Great game, 42-35 Duke.
Yeah.
Offense was in good gear coming after a big win at Miami. Yeah. So the Dukies 7 wins obviously go into a bowl.
Who are they playing this weekend?
Boy, this is guess
big game.
I'll give you the line of the game. Duke's a 28-point underdog. Can you guess who in the ACC they're playing? One team should pop into your mind pretty quickly. How about Clemson?
That's right.
At Clemson,
Are they
at Death Valley.
Second-ranked team in the country?
Oh, yeah, and a good, yeah. But what about Alabama? These guys, they've shut out, I think, for the first time ever, maybe?
Yeah.
Two top 25 teams or something?
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah, the Clemsons are good. They're number 2.
Yeah. So, again, the court, Drew Lock out of Missouri, more than likely will be a first-round pick, but they're just not a lot of top quarterbacks. And again,
So what
I
are
think,
you looking for your Giants? What are you
for the
looking
Giants
for right now?
if Oakland does in fact finish with the worst record, and I truly believe they're laying down just to get that first pick.
Yeah.
They'll go for the Oregon quarterback. But the real prize, the gem of this draft is Nick Bosa, who left Ohio State, got an injury early this season, and said, there's no point of me rehabbing and going back and risking an injury.
Getting injured
he
again?
could be the second overall pick defensive end. His brother is Joey Bosa, that just got off the IRR, and was very good defensive end for the Chargers. Or the Giants, depending where they, if they win against Tampa, they'll move down a couple notches. Obviously, they could go for a Jonah Hill offensive lineman from Alabama.
Yeah.
So, and the thing too, and Eli played a really good game the other night.
Hey,
and again,
congratulations, I guess.
if you give the guy a quarterback, and yeah, I know he's not the new 21st century mobile quarterback, but he never was.
Nor is Tom Brady, obviously, for
just
that matter.
give him a little protection. And the thing, too, this Kyle Laletta, backup quarterback that we drafted out of Richmond
Spider.
this past April. And of course, he got into that traffic issue a few weeks ago. And it's not good for a quarterback.
Was there much fallout about that?
Giants didn't discipline him, but Pat Shurmur made the point, their head coach, about the quarterback is a decision-making position. Okay, with him leaving the scene of the crime and all that stuff, it just didn't look good.
Not good.
So and I, you can accuse me, and I won't argue with you. I spent way too much time on the April draft. I do so much studying and film work, and these are all people, obviously, that aren't even going to end up on the Giants.
Yeah.
And I'll be in Europe anyways when the draft happens in late April anyway. So let's see.
Boy, some Celtics hockey. I think your big concern is again the Gordon Hayward injury last year. Sorry, Gordon. Sorry you lost a season, but talk about giving Jason Tatum, as you've said a bunch of times, just a time to become a budding star. Boy, are there just too many decent bodies on that team?
You answered your own question.
I guess probably
too many very good players, and the very
point.
good players want touches. And I read a pretty good thing the other day where if Jason Tatum goes down court and doesn't touch the ball 2 times down, well, the third time, when he touches the ball, he's going to shoot no matter what. And Gordon Hayward, we all like Gordon. He At this point, he's an average player.
Yeah.
He's still taking time with his ankle. I don't think he's going to become the Gordon Hayward from the Utah Jazz
All right.
because he's not the man with the Celtics.
Yeah.
And I told you on the golf course, Jason Tatum, I know this sounds ridiculous, that at age 20 needs to be the man. Kyrie's going to get us points, behind the line. But Tatum is the man. That's his job. He's the scorer. He needs to touch the ball almost every time.
Kyrie makes interesting comments pretty often saying we could really use what a veteran, well, they do have some players who have been, sounded like kind of a strange comment.
Okay, the problem with Terry Rozier, who played nothing short of great when Kyrie went down last year, his mindset is, I'm a starter. And this guy can run 1,000,000 miles an hour dribbling the ball. He's unbelievable talent out of Louisville. Rick Pitino said when they drafted, and I don't follow big time college ball all that much, that the Celtics got themselves a really good player. Well, the unfortunate part is he's a free agent after the season. Kyrie's a free agent after the season. Kyrie's already intimated his love for the city of Boston, for the program, the whole 9 yards.
For what that's worth.
Right, I want to be back. We all thought he was going to end up with the Knicks next year, being a New York kid. So, I don't know if I'm coach, I make a radical move by putting Jaylen Brown on the bench, putting Kyrie at point guard and making, or a Rozier point guard and Kyrie over at a shooting guard. But there's so many players, and Coach Stevens does a great job with minutes. If they're way up in the game or down, they'll pull the players.
Boy, they've been way down. What, 20 point deficits for a 1-4 road trip, and it was miraculous they won that one game.
The Toronto Raptors are very, very
and we haven't
good.
even talked about Mr. Butler.
Right. Jimmy Butler just
doesn't that change the
Jimmy
East
Butler
dynamics big time?
Is a great all-around player. With this young, talented Sixer team.
Wouldn't you put them ahead of the Celtics now or not?
I wouldn't.
Or at least even with them?
But, I had the Sixers down because they didn't have any veteran presence. I like J.J. Redick on the team, but Butler will get right in your face. And that was the problem with Minnesota. And nobody really argued about Butler. But there were guys like on Wiggins, and a guy I like, Karl Anthony Towns. Okay, they didn't seem all that to care that much if they lost the games. Jimmy Butler doesn't like to lose. He will get these kids. Who else is? Indianapolis is playing good. And I'm missing a team here, stupidly. But that East Conference,
And Milwaukee.
Milwaukee with the best player in the league on the team.
Freak.
On the Celtics, right now we're in 5th in the conference. The playoffs open tonight. We don't even have home court advantage. My notes, I put no rebounding. They don't rebound. Now, explain to me, Duke, when I was a kid 50 some odd years ago, starting out playing basketball, I remember every coach, when you shoot, follow up on your shot, just assume you missed.
Of course, so many of these guys are throwing up three-point shots from way downtown.
Go after your shot, get the rebound. But people don't offer offensive rebound. And thank you for bringing the three-point.
But again, a lot of it's they're taking three-point shots.
I love the Celtics. They are putting me to sleep with all this three-point shooting. It's
Duke does the same to me at times.
It's terrible. They bring the ball down the court, one pass to you, and you shoot. Okay.
Great if you're hitting your shots.
I like high percentage shots in the paint. I like working the ball. So they're playing tonight. If you're a Celtic Bruin fan, tonight's a good night. Celtics play at 7:30 against Chicago, which I think Wendell Carter, former Dookie, is on that team.
Oh, wow, good point.
And at 10 o'clock, they play the Colorado Avalanche in Denver. And the Boston Bruins have the best line in hockey. But
actually, they have. I think it was a story in the Boston paper that questioned that, saying the Avalanche might actually have the better
number
line.
2, but they're pushing Boston.
But the two best lines.
No, two best lines in hockey. So you've got double pleasure tonight watching that. And Marcus Smart.
Boy, his shooting percentage keeps going down.
Horrible shooter.
But he still kills himself, right?
kills himself playing defense. He's the only guy that will go for an offensive rebound. And I'll tell you something. He is the senior member of the Celtics team.
Is he?
Is that hard to believe?
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And they say he'll get into his teammates' faces. Do we have a call?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we do.
No, we'll take it
we
back.
do. Let's
You're
grab
right.
a call here. Good evening. You're on the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County.
Good
Hello.
back.
Yes, as is the custom, I don't write things down, so I forget them.
You and me both.
Yeah, you and me both.
I got three things left I want to talk about real quick. I was messaged last night on Facebook by Sami Lehtinen. Remember that name?
There's a Florida congresswoman with that last name.
He's a hockey player.
Yeah, goaltender, BFA hockey, late 80s.
Okay.
Came from Finland. Believe he lived with the Yandos. He played 1 year here.
Huh.
He played the year after John, I believe, graduated, John LeClaire. So it was kind of nice to hear from him. And but more somber notes, our old boss, John Kimmel's wife, Jackie, died, and the wake is tomorrow at Heels, 4 to 8. There's a funeral the next day at St. Mary's, I believe.
Excellent. That was on my list. I was going to mention that.
I forgot all about that. And, I've already offered my condolences to John through various outlets, and I'll see him tomorrow night.
Hey, Leonard? Len?
Yes?
I said the same thing to Nighthawk. Please tell John, please remember this. I think Nighthawk will too if he goes. I'm out of town in a few hours, and please tell John that had I not been on the road, he certainly would have seen me tomorrow
I'll
night.
make sure
and
to do
please
that.
extend my condolences.
I'll make sure
Thank
to
you.
do that.
Thanks.
Yeah. And, of course, I did attend Nat Warman's memorial service at the Episcopal Church in Sheldon Creek. I have a suspicion maybe you were at the house on where the celebration was after that.
That would be accurate. I was a doorman pretty much. It was.
I figured you were.
Tons of people.
I thought the chance to give tribute was going to occur at the church, but that was not the case, and my schedule really didn't allow me to go up to Enosburg, and I wish I would have, and I'm sure there were some nice tributes that flowed during that time up in Enosburg at, what is that, the 1904, what is that house?
They're closed. 1906 house. Jennifer Bright Innkeeper. It's her horse barn, carriage barn, and back, and it was a very nice gathering. To be honest, I was busy enough working. I didn't catch much of what was going on inside, but it was a very nice gathering.
The memorial service was great. His son Philip played the cello.
Wow.
Played. I believe. I think it was either. Opening prelude to Bach on the cello. I don't have. My memory is a little vague on the piece, but it was gorgeous. And Eric Bushy told me that he attended Philip's wedding, and Eric is the band leader at BFA, and he was at the time was Eric playing for Sterling Weed's orchestra, and who played at the wedding, and Philip at his wedding played that cello as well, I guess, which he started learning at MVU when he was a student there. I found that very interesting, and it was a nice gathering. I knew a lot of people, and a lot of people I did not know. He really touched a lot of people, Nat, and I messaged to his son Josh, who was an art studio in Montreal, and I messaged him afterwards, and pretty much I summed up my feelings by saying that his father was John Lennon without a guitar and song, but rather with a pencil and notepad.
Yeah, nice comment, Len.
Yeah, and so there were three things I had on my mind I forgot to mention.
Of course,
I think I have them all out of the way now. I'll certainly mention that to John.
Yeah, and I'm sure Hawk would too.
Hawk will too.
Nat and I have something in common. We both showed up in Franklin County, did our journalism thing, courtesy of Bun O'Shea.
Well,
Bun was the guy who hired Nat up here.
I came before you two. Oh no, Nat came before me. Nat was 6 years ahead of me.
Yeah.
5 years ahead of me. I think he came there in '60, and of course, Bun gave me my start in '65.
Oh,
when I was
okay.
in high
So
school.
we can throw you into that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he put a camera in my hand for the first time.
Smart
I mean,
guy.
Take some pictures of the basketball games. That turned out pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, good night.
Thanks, Leonard.
Bye bye.
We've got about 10 minutes left here. If you want to join in, 528-5315.
So the Bruins too. Tuukka Rask, that was kind of a bit of, I guess, some just family. He's back on the team.
He's back with the team. Personally, I don't have a clue why
Just
he
made a
left.
reference. I just saw quotes in one of the Boston papers just saying my family kind of needed me without going into specifics and stuff. But before he came back, I think they were
Tuukka's
really
is he from Finland?
Finland.
Yeah.
I think they were really wondering when he'd be back, but he's back.
Yeah. And
But there was even speculation that he might be retiring and stuff. It was kind of a strange story.
How old is he now? Like 27?
Jeez, I would guess old. Hasn't he been around longer than that? I would say
he's
maybe
one of the
older
higher
than
paid
that.
goalies in hockey.
And of course,
think-
Yarrow Halleck has been the better goalie
Let's
so
grab
far.
a
Another call.
Good evening. You're on the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. Hello.
Nick Aller.
Hello, hey, guess who came home, took a nap, and forgot all about it.
Hi, Super Dave.
You forgot all about it?
Eight.
You still
I
there?
had a long day today, and I was beat up.
Yeah. Yeah. And Nick went down to.
So when I came home, I took a nap and I forgot all about the show.
No, it's good to hear. Yeah, Nick called me at about. I just walked into my house at about 4 or so, and Nick said, "Hey, Richard, I'm going down to catch the UVM basketball game, their home opener." So of course we figured, oh, no problem. There are 3 of us on here, but hey, thanks for checking in, Dave. Nighthawk has performed as usual, and we got some good calls, so we've done okay. But we'll see you next week, hopefully.
Oh, good. And God willing, I won't forget next week.
David.
But we don't mean to throw you off here. Hey, your Giants got to win. Was that good news or not? Oh, I
Yeah,
guess-
they play pretty well.
Yeah. So, David, I do owe you an apology. When you were on the show last week, I told you the following day, Thursday, was the last day for golf at Champlain. And I did see you and your buddies golfing Thursday afternoon. We were out in the course. And lo and behold, I was wrong. It was Friday. And Duke and I went out Friday at 1:15. And we were the only people on the golf course, except for one other person. It's an older gal that drives around on a golf cart. She plays like 27 holes a day. Jeannie Horgan, you got
Oh,
it.
Ginny, sorry,
Yeah.
I wasn't listening.
And that was it. And Duke had the honors of hitting the last ball of the season. He tapped in the putt into the hole for the last shot of the year.
Mark, I feel bad. I wasn't thinking. You should have said
No,
Duke. Let me do that.
no.
So ironic that
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah. So here's a guy.
Well,
Here's a guy that didn't play.
the thing was, I'm glad you sent me that because we ended up playing Thursday,
Yeah.
and Thursday was a much nicer day.
Yeah. Yeah. It was busy there too Thursday.
Looks like we won't be playing any golf anytime soon around here.
No.
No, after such a hot summer, boy, it's been pretty out. Today, just for the record, the daytime high temperature today couldn't have been more than like low to mid 20s, if maybe that.
Yeah.
Burlington's coldest average daytime high, midwinter coldest, is about 25. Today was an absolutely representative midwinter day.
When I left my house here to come to the studio, it was 15 degrees at 20 after 6.
You know, we might have gotten a little bit. We had a little bit of snow today. That might have been lake effect. I heard
This
Sean
morning-
Parker last night. That actually might have been a little bit of lake effect,
Yep.
which you don't think of Lake Champlain, but it does produce a little bit of lake
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah. So, David, this no call, no show.
Well,
That when we sit down for contract negotiations, that will be brought up.
okay. Now, I can tell you who won the Cy Young tonight.
Yeah, so it must have been. I hope it's a Tampa
DeGrom
Bay guy.
and Blake Snell.
Yeah, it should have been Blake
both,
Snell
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, amazing because Jacob DeGrom was 10-9 this year with a 1.70 ERA.
Yeah, what a great record, huh?
Yeah. So, David, I was very, very happy to see
Yeah,
Bob.
but he had, 29 straight starts over 6 innings?
quality
starts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was happy to see Bob Melvin getting
Absolutely.
Manager of the Year.
Absolutely.
Lowest payroll in baseball, $66 million. Where Alex Cora, great year, $238 million.
And I totally, as a Red Sox guy, I totally agree. Although Alex Cora was hardly a bad choice.
No.
And the Tampa Bay manager also was
Kevin Cash.
no, Kevin Cash would have been, but no, Melvin absolutely deserved that. I agree.
Yeah. And Manny Machado.
Well, and the guy from the Braves, he kind of deserved it too.
Yes.
They were coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, Len didn't mention that. The Braves guy got it over the Milwaukee
Brett
guy.
Snedeker did a
Over
nice
Mr.
job.
Council.
Yeah, did a good job. Manny Machado, those words of "I don't hustle," or
I hope they're going to come back and haunt him.
Hal Steinbrenner, reading in the Post today or yesterday, he's still very troubled by those words. For the Yankees, and they kind of want Machado, but to give him $300 million to a guy that says, I just don't like to hustle.
Dave, what do you think of the Yankees? Will they go after Machado?
Oh, I hope not.
Yeah.
I think he will sign with the Pinstripes. I really do. Yeah.
Huh. What about your guy, Mr. Harper?
I'm not 100% sure. I think what they might do is go all out for starting pitching.
Yeah, which would probably be a smart thing for them to do.
Yeah. So, hey Zach, how much time do we have
Got
left?
about 4 minutes.
Well,
About 4.
they've got a pretty good team. They aren't too far away now. I see Kimbrel declined his option today.
No surprise. He's thinking, and he's probably right, that somebody will give him mega. Won't be the Red Sox. He's gone.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg. Aside from the
Well, I
last
think
couple
he'll
months,
get
great
more
job.
money, but he's not going to get $18 million a year.
No, but he'll get what? 5? He'll get maybe 70. I mean, 5 years for.
I would see
15, maybe 75.
A 4-year, $60 million, 15.
That sounds about
and
right.
I agree with David. He's looking more for years.
Oh, sure.
Than
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
so.
I don't blame him.
Once the floodgates, just say from.
And I'm sure you guys talked about the Giants. They look like the third worst team in the league instead of the second.
Yeah. We all kind of agree that Oakland's taken the crown.
Was that an ugly last 2-3 minutes of that game?
The Giant game?
I guess that's what he's talking
the
about.
penalties and
Oh,
the offsides and the.
Listen, we're very happy to win, but if you watch the game, it was a 3rd and 12 situation, and San Francisco got a pass interference or a holding.
Oh, yeah.
They had 2 crucial penalties on the drive where, we were fortunate, to say the least. So, okay, David, we got two minutes.
Anyway, I'm terribly sorry. I'm just speechless. I can't think of words to express my sorrow at not being there.
Yeah.
Hey, stuff happens, but thank you. You're a good man to call. We'll catch you next week.
All right. Hey, I'll see you later.
Okay, bye, David.
Good night.
See ya.
So,
I'm impressed you called. Hey, good to hear from you.
So we got like
some
a minute and a
calls
half to go. NBA draft. It's just taken the NBA scouts to see this man-child, Zion Williamson. He's moved
Hasn't he moved up to number 1?
He's the number 1 pick right now.
He looks like a good kid. Looks like he's having a good time out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's going to be an interesting season for Duke. They're going to win probably all but 1 game this year.
Well, we'll see. But I mean, last year they had, about as much talent last year. They had a good year, but it's no guarantee. No guarantee.
No, it's still a long ways away from March.
Virginia, for the records, of maybe a top 4 team. Carolina, I saw them the other night. Carolina's a top. Duke's not the only very good team, even in the ACC.
Yeah. But
it looks like they have a pretty good team.
Yeah, they crushed Army. They're
playing, I think, Eastern Michigan as we speak.
Okay.
1 minute.
So 1 minute.
Then they go to Hawaii for some games.
That's right. So okay, that's it. Listen, it turned out to be an okay show.
Good job, Hawk. Good job.
Yeah. So for Zach, our engineer, Nick, I hope you're enjoying the basketball game. David, I hope you had a good nap. And Duke, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Hawk.
And for everyone out there, we'll see you next week. And remember, you do not have to be a great athlete to be a good sport. Ciao for now.
See ya. Go Blue Devils. Wally Triplett, is that a name? Are you hip to him?
I've heard the name.
Groundbreaking football back. Well, he's black guy.